Okay, Shalom Aleichem, everybody. We know we're coming to the days of Rosh Hashanah. We're already in the Slichot time. And there's a pasuk in Tehillim that says, Tik'u b'chodesh shofar b'kesel yom chagenu. The pasuk says, below the shofar on the month which the moon is covered. But the month over here means on the Rosh Chodesh, the Yom Tov that falls out on Rosh Chodesh. What's the only Yom Tov holiday that falls out on Rosh Chodesh? It's Rosh Hashanah, beginning of the year. So it says, Shebiyom Rosh Hashanah levana nichset ve'ena niret. On the day of Rosh Hashanah, we all know the way the moon works, is in the beginning of the month, you can't see the moon. And slowly by slowly, the crescent starts appearing. And then it gets bigger until you hit the 15th. Then once you hit the 15th, it starts going down. So in the beginning of the month, the moon is covered. So the pasuk says, below the shofar on that day, on the Yom Tov that falls on Rosh Chodesh. Back then, how did they announce Rosh Chodesh? How do they know when Rosh Chodesh is? We have a calendar now. But how was it back then? So they used to have, yeah, you're right, they used to have two ways. So first, they used to have two witnesses, who would say, we saw the moon. We saw the moon, the new moon, we saw a little crescent. That means it's Rosh Chodesh today. And how would they announce to everybody? They would go on the mountains at first, and they would take these large, like pillars, cedar wood things, big trees, and used to wave it in the air. One guy used to go on a mountain, wave it. Then the guy from one mountain saw the guy in the other mountain. So he started waving. And then they used to go like this for a few mountains, till they went to the end of Israel. And then there was one guy on this big mountain, and then all the people in Pumpadita, which is the exile, Bavel, everyone went to the roofs of their houses, took a torch, and lit their torch on fire, and it looked like the whole place was like on a big bonfire. So this is the way all the Jews knew it's Rosh Chodesh. But then the group called the Beit Tusim, they were like, you call them reformists, something like that. They tried to mess up the system. They went to the mountains on the wrong day, and they started lighting the fires. Basically, they were playing games. So the Chachamim said, we have to send out messengers. We send out messengers, and they're going to let everyone know what day Rosh Chodesh was. Let's say by the time they get to your city, it's going to be a week later. So they say last week was Rosh Chodesh. But what do we see from here? How are we able to know when Rosh Chodesh is? The witnesses have to come and say what?
They saw that.
They saw the
crescent.
The crescent. Mm-hmm. So is Rosh Hashanah ever going to fall out on a day when you can't see the moon? No. You have a question? Rosh Hashanah is never going to fall out on a day when you can't see the moon. Because in order to say it's Rosh Hashanah, in order to say it's the new month, the new year, you have to say we saw the moon. So that's the question he brings down, that Zera Shimshon brings down. So he says, they have to testify that they saw the new moon. So to answer this, he brings down a Zohar from Parasha B'Shalach, and it says over there, anytime it says the words Vayehi Hayom, and it was on that day. What's that in reference to? On that day, it's always in reference to Rosh Hashanah. And he brings a few examples. It says Vayehi Hayom Hakatuv B'Shulamit, Vayehi Hayom Ha'omer B'Iyov. The story of Iyov says, and it was on that day that Iyov got plagued with all of those punishments. Well, it wasn't punishments, Hashem was testing him. He was put into suffering, his kids died, everything happened on that day. What's that day? That day was Rosh Hashanah. So the Zohar says, when we say something is that thing, when we say that, it means it's unique.
10 minutes? 5-6 minutes?
So when we say that, it means it's unique. So what was the uniqueness of Rosh Hashanah? So the Chachamim bring down that on the first days of creation, we know on the 6th day Hashem created man, created a person. And that was Rosh Hashanah. The very first Rosh Hashanah is when the person was created. The first day, which was on the 6th day of creation. And it says the 6th day of creation there was no night afterwards. It went on into Shabbat. It was light from Friday morning all the way till Shabbat day, till the nighttime. So, the first Rosh Hashanah that ever happened was light for 36 hours. There was this light that Hashem was beaming into the world, and He didn't want to make it dark on Friday night. So the answer is, the reason why we say Vayihi Hayom is because this day is special. The day of Rosh Hashanah was the only day in history that had light for 36 hours. So now when we said in the Pasuk, Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'kes liyom chagenu, blow the shofar on the day when the moon is covered, it's not saying the moon is covered nowadays in Rosh Hashanah. Because we know it's not possible. It's impossible for the moon to be covered in Rosh Hashanah, because you got to see the moon.
Why keep doing this room?
It's impossible to see the moon right now on Rosh Hashanah. But back then, the very first Rosh Hashanah that ever happened, the moon was covered because it was all light. Since it was all light, the moon was covered. What's this trying to show you with all this light? That Hashem put into the system of the world, said within Rosh Hashanah, you're going to have this light that's beaming into the world, light of chesed. Anytime you have light, it's always in reference to the chesed, the kindness of Hashem. And darkness, we all know, is just opposite. Strict judgment, deen. So Hashem is trying to show you, I'm trying to fulfill chesed into you, God. I'm trying to put as much kindness into you. And how do you do that? By blowing the shofar. Hashem says, blow the shofar in order to, bring out my chesed for you. And this is, she'ena perush lo nireta levena. So when we said the moon is not visible, like we just explained, doesn't mean it's not visible today. It means it was not visible on the very first day of Rosh Hashanah. Okay, continue with what we were saying. We said that Rosh Hashanah, back in the very first days of creation, the sixth day when man was created, Adam and Rishon, Hashem made it that Friday, when we went into Shabbat, Friday night was all light. The whole entire day, starting from Friday morning all the way to the end of Shabbat, was just light, 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 and Hashem covered the moon. He took away the darkness and He put in the light instead. That's why if you look in the Pasuk, every day says Vayi Erev, Vayi Boker, Yom Echad, Vayi Erev Yom Boker, Yom Revi'i. But when you get to Shabbat, what does it say? It doesn't say anything. So why didn't it say Vayi Erev, Vayi Boker, Yom Shabbat? Because there was no Erev, there was no night. On Friday night of the very first night of creation, the very first Friday night of creation, there was no darkness. There was only light. So this was, we said, as a symbolization that Rosh Hashanah is going to be filled with light every year. That Hashem wants to increase the chesed, and that's why we blow the shofar on the day when the moon is covered. And even in Israel, we know Israel, Sukkot, Pesach, Shavuot. How many days Yom Tov do they have? They have a 1 day Yom Tov. Over here, it's 2 days. But on Rosh Hashanah, if you notice, everybody throughout the world has a 2 day Yom Tov. Why is this so? Because the very first Rosh Hashanah was 2 days. That's why there's a 2 day Yom Tov for Rosh Hashanah only, even if you're in Eretz Yisrael, because Hashem wants to shower us with His chesed. Now we can also understand the next pasuk of Asher Ha'am Yodeh Tirah. The pasuk says, praiseworthy is the nation that knows the cry of the shofar. Now the question is, what does that mean? You know the cry of the shofar. A goy could hear the shofar and he knows it also. So we explained that the shofar cry means you know the secrets behind the shofar. You know that when you blow the shofar, you're enabling the mercies of Hashem. If you don't blow the shofar 1 year, it's a very bad sign. Throughout the year, many bad things can happen. The shofar is what saves us. Why? Because the Gemara Rosh Hashanah says, when you blow the shofar, you're confusing the Satan. We blow it sitting, we blow it standing, and for some reason he gets confused, and he's not able to put harsh decrees onto us. And we fulfilled the pasuk of Be'or Panecha Yalechun. It says, and with the light of Hashem, meaning the light of His goodness, the fact that He prolonged the day, we're going to walk, we're going to go. So the question is, what does it mean we're going to go with this light? What does walking have to do with spirituality? You hear the question? What does walking have to do with spirituality? So, a person is made up of 2 things. He's comprised of 2 parts. He has a guf and he has a neshama. Translation. He has a body and he has a soul. The body, when it gets tired, knocks out. Yeah, he gets tired, goes to sleep, relaxes. But the soul is always on fire. The soul is always moving. It's always wanting to go. So since the soul is always moving, that's why we say by the light of Hashem, He's going to cause us to go. Meaning on Rosh Hashanah, the light that He shines into us increases our spirituality. If you notice, when a person is learning, when a person is davening, you see people in shul, they go back and forth. What's the back and forth? You ever saw a non-Jew go like this?
It's emotion.
Why? Because the neshama inside of you, is moving. It wants to grow, it wants to keep going. And that's the symbolization of spirituality, because you always want to continue going upwards. The Chachamim say that tzaddikim in the next world, they will not rest. Now people are going to say, what do you mean? They're not going to rest, not going to enjoy? No. There's no rest in the next world, because they're going to be entirely spiritual. Spiritual beings that are full of just wanting to do more and more and more. You're going to fulfill all your desires. Any desire you have, 100% is going to be in Olam Haba. You could also see the word halacha. What is halacha? What's the root word of halacha? Holech, to go. Meaning the halacha, the Jewish law, went down from generation to generation. It never changed. That's the reason why we're still here. The continuity of the Jewish people keeping the halacha. They didn't say, nah, this doesn't apply, that doesn't apply. They said, we follow halacha to the T. A little something on this week's Parasha Vayelech. Parasha Vayelech, this week's Parasha. We said, Moshe Rabbeinu anointed a new leader. That after he dies, he's turned 120 years old. Who do you appoint? David, it's your bar mitzvah Parasha. Who do you appoint? First Aliyah. Yoshua. Now the Chachamim of that generation said, Pnei Moshe ke Pnei Achama. The face of Moshe like the face of the sun. Pnei Yoshua ke Pnei Achama. The face of Yoshua like the face of the moon. Oy lo lo sabusha, oy lo taklima. They said, wow to the embarrassment, wow to like the different word for embarrassment. So the question is, what are they saying? They're basically saying Moshe Rabbeinu was great. Already the next generation, it already was like this, Shvach. You had already Yoshua, he wasn't as great as Moshe. That's Pashut Pshat. Different way we can understand is with the following mashal. It says, there was a story, there was a little town, little village, and in this village, they were opening up a new store. This new store, like a chain store around the country, they opened up like a Walgreens. And over there, they were looking for workers. It said, now hiring. So everyone in the town, everyone has their farmers, they're all farmers, they picked, they seeded, they plowed, they did all the classic things. They saw this new thing open up. They all went to go check it out. They said, what are the hours? What's the pay? And the guy's like, no, you got a beer, 12 hours, $5 an hour. Everyone's like, $5 an hour, the whole day, what am I going to be here for? They all went back, they're like, we don't need this. One guy's like, I'll try it out. What's it going to hurt? So he goes, he works hard, puts himself into the business, and he really tries. 1 year, 2 year. Now the person in charge, the manager of the store, they sees that, this guy's actually doing good. So he bumps him up. Next thing you know, he himself was the manager. The guy left, he became the manager. Now he's the manager of the store, and he's investing into it, and he's making it grow, and people at the top of the company, they see, look at this, the stores are doing very well. So he said they upgraded this guy, promoted him to the district manager. All the stores in the area under this guy. And this guy is already getting big, and he's being extremely successful, and the higher ups are looking into him, and then next thing you know, he became the CEO of the company. CEO. Now, this is already 10, 15 years later. He already went to the city. He's already in one of those high office buildings, and he already forgot about his little village. Now, every 10, 15 years, they used to do this round check to see how all their stores are doing. Go check out this store, that store. Personally, the owner and the CEO used to go around. So they're sitting in their limo, and they're going from store to store to store to store. Next thing you know, they see, next thing on the list is this village. And the CEO was like, oh, that's where I grew up. Can't wait to see everyone, everyone I didn't see in so long. So they go to the village. and they see everyone is going over to this owner, but the CEO, every time he's walking on the street, saying hi to this guy's going, crossing the street, this guy's trying, everyone's avoiding him. He's like, what's up, what's going on? So he quickly stops one of the guys. He's like, yo, you used to be my friend, why is no one saying hi to me? So they said, when we look at you, we feel ashamed. We say, look at you. You took the job. Everyone had the opportunity to take this job. We could have been where you are right now today. We just were lazy. We don't want to apply ourselves. We said, let's just stay with what we already have. We're doing good. We have a farm. We pick, we plant. But you took the opportunity. You went to the store. You build yourself up. And every time we see you, we see a person that we could have become. We saw something that we had the ability to do, and that we didn't do it. So same thing was with Moshe and Yehoshua. Yehoshua was not the smartest kid in the class. Everyone around him, he was in the same class, same chabura as everyone. But he always wanted to know more. He went to Moshe Rabbeinu, he asked him questions, he said, what's this, what's that? He sat late at night learning, Chazara, he reviewed everything he did, and he was always trying to get more and more out of Moshe. He was stuck onto him, he was the main Talmid. So all the Zekenim, all the elders, the Chachamim of that generation, they said, Oy lo tabusha, oy lo klima. Woe to our embarrassment. Not the embarrassment from Moshe to Yehoshua, that it diminished. They're saying Moshe Rabbeinu was like the Pnei Achama. He was like the sun. You can't ever be the sun. The sun shines with... He is like the... You can't even get close to the sun. But the moon, we could have all been the moon. He was just the moon. That's what they're trying to say. We could have been something, and we gave it up. So coming now into Rosh Hashanah, we should all look at the opportunities that Hashem is giving us to learn, of doing Avodat Hashem, treating other people nicely. And you have to take these opportunities and use it to grow. When you hear the shofar blast, feel the lights that the Zera Shimshon is explaining that are going into you. Hashem is saying, I want to give you kindness. I want to give you chesed. I want to help you throughout the year. And Be'ezrat Hashem, and we all reach our full potentials of whatever we can become. Baruch Adonai Olam, amen, amen.